U.S. Supreme Court is deciding if President Joe Biden has the power to forgive up to $20,000 of federal student loans. They've been on pause since early in the pandemic to ease financial burden, but now a major question is, does the national emergency status apply here? Fox 55's Kelsey Mannix is live at Purdue Fort Wayne now with more about that and what borrowers should do now to prepare for that final decision.
Well, Drew, a lot of current college students like the ones here at Purdue Fort Wayne and also those of us who are out of college now are certainly keeping an eye on this case and have been for probably about 3 years now since those pauses went into effect. But we still may have a few months before a final decision is made by the Supreme Court. Today, I spoke to a political science professor here at PFW and also a student financial aid nonprofit about what makes this case unique and what you can do to prepare. A promise President Joe Biden now wants to see through.
This was a big issue in the Democratic primary for president in 2020, and President Biden was not as aggressive about it, completely forgiving student loans as some of the other candidates were. But I think there was some political pressure on for him to follow through at some level.
Now the question is whether the Supreme Court will follow through at the highest level and say President Biden can forgive federal loans. Purdue Fort Wayne political science professor Michael Wolff says the government has the power to waive some loans during a national emergency. But does that apply to the COVID-19 pandemic?
We have two presidents that said it was for at least a delay. Whether or not that was a permanent okay to have $10,000 removed from your repayment is another issue.
That's part of what the Supreme Court is considering. Wolff also says student loans are different than other loans because there's really no collateral to collect if people can't repay.
Because it lacks security and it's coming from the government, they're very unlike others. You can't split my master's and doctorate away from my undergraduate degree, for instance.
Regardless of the Supreme Court's decision, Bill Wozniak with InvestEd Indiana says it's important to be prepared for repayments to restart.
What we've been working with students and borrowers on is making sure that their information in the federal student database is correct, their contact information is correct, so that's good either way.
He says because some of the federal loan providers either went out of business or changed hands during the pandemic, it's crucial to know all of your information as soon as possible.
The type of loan you have, the terms of loan that you have, the repayment amount, the repayment length, all of these things are important things.
And Wolff actually told me the Supreme Court is deciding whether or not the states actually have the power to bring this case up. Now, for example, he said the state of Missouri actually has a government-run student loan provider, but that's not the entity that's actually on this case. It's the state of Missouri itself. So if the court rules the states do not have the power to bring this case forward, he says we may see a decision a little bit sooner, but Wolff said that bigger decisions like this usually come out around June. Either way, the waiting game continues a little while longer. Reporting live in Fort Wayne, Kelsey Mannix, Fox 55 News.